The most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
Welcome to Radioactive. Join us as we look at technology and life in the world around us, and have a little fun with it too. I'm Pat Morrow, and
this is John Brown.
I'm Flora Morrow.
And
I'm Dale Miracle, and this is Radioactive.
oh crap. So much for playing that song.
Is that a new song? Oh,
yeah.
Crap.
Yeah, don't you like it? It's got kind of a snappy tune, ain't it?
Crap. Oh, crap. Oh, crap. I just went around the block. Oh, crap. Okay, never mind.
Sometimes you just crack me up too.
Well, good.
Well,
I'm
hello, everybody.
Hello, Erik.
Good evening, Erik.
I could have started out with Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. There.
Oh boy.
I'm sorry, I forgot to say. Never mind, I'm not going back in there. I was gonna throw in a Happy birthday, Mr. President. Happy birthday. Hey.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, huh, right you are.
Wait, his title is El Presidente.
Oh, excuse me. Good evening, Erik.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the birthday celebration of me.
Yeah.
I'm I woke up this morning and I was another year older.
There was a song about that, too. Country western song.
Let's put everybody on here now. Here in a minute. I'm sure I'll go over there. Huh. Erik, are you there?
Oh, did I make him go away?
Poof.
I guess I made him go away. Erik, where'd you go?
Yeah, I would imagine he'll be back.
Yeah, there was that song. Another day older and deeper in debt. St. Peter's at the gate. Oh gosh, now I can't remember it.
St. Peter, don't you call me because I can't go. I owe my soul
To the company store. Oh,
My dad's favorite one was the old gray mare. She ain't what she used to be.
I owe my soul to the company store. Anyway, I ain't gonna sit here and croon like that.
Was that who?
I got more respect
Was that
for myself.
Roger? Was that Roger Miller?
No, it was Roger Ebert.
Oh no, sir. Roger Miller sang that. Roger Ebert. Oh, you know what?
Actually, the company store song.
Yeah.
That was Tennessee Ernie Ford.
Oh, okay.
You knew that.
No, yeah, I do.
Come
know.
on, Flora. Jeez.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Erik. Good to see you.
He decided Mom and Dad was fighting. He needed to leave.
Yeah, I for some reason it just completely went out on me. It completely kicked me out of the meeting.
Wow.
Interesting. We were going to work on that this week, but
Patrick never called Dale.
And then when I did call him, I'm busy. I got to do a couple of things. Maybe tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, you was asking him about helping you with the truck.
Oh, that too.
And he's like, what are you talking about?
No, we were doing laundry, and I was working with 2 people on Telegram, helping them with their computer stuff, and then I said I could come over early Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
And I never heard anything back, so...
Erik, you might want to back away from the camera a little bit. You're scaring people.
Oh, quit.
There, that's better.
Jeez.
You had to see it. All we could see was your glasses and your eyes.
Oh, really?
It's all right now. Don't you be picking on that boy.
Anyway, tonight we're going to kind of do a kind of a special night, I guess. Since it's my birthday, I get to pick what we talk about.
Happy birthday, Pat.
Thank you, thank you. I woke up today and I was a whole year older. And better looking. Yeah, shake your head, Cora. We see it.
Yeah.
And, you know what? Dale's not on video. We need to fix that. We'll do that during one of the talks we're going to do. What all you got tonight, Erik? How long do you think it's going to... This is going to be a half-hour discussion, an hour, 2 hours?
I mean, I don't think the well, we'll see how the education thing goes, but I don't know. Do you want to talk about that? Did you have a chance to watch those videos?
No, I didn't get a chance to watch that yet, because you said you thought that would be another show.
I mean, we could talk about that too, or we could wait till another show. I don't care, but I think just if we could get a good conversation going on the education side of things, I think it could go an hour, but I would say probably about half hour.
All right, let's start off with that. Then we're going to probably sneak into things that piss me off, because I got a couple of them today that have caused controversy between my wife and I.
Oh, I was thinking the Browns didn't play today, did they?
Yes, they
Yes,
did.
they did.
And they won.
And they won.
Thank God.
Wait a minute.
What is it, against New England?
No, this was Washington.
They played
Oh, that's right.
They played the state of Washington.
Yeah, the Washingtons.
Mm-hmm. The Washingtons, yes.
I briefly talked about that with my friend at home. It's like, out of all the names that they could come up with, I mean, I think like the Redwoods, you know, a lot of, you know.
Well, the problem is they decided to change the name about a month and a half before the season started. So they really didn't have time to come up with a good name.
Oh, they can change it mid-season. There's no rules for that.
No, I'm saying they didn't have time before the season to come up with a good name because they felt like they had to pull away the Redskin name because, it's not politically correct. But they don't have a name.
For the percentage, for the small percentage of people that actually are offended by it, it's like. I'm not saying anything bad about it. I'm just saying I don't know what's going on with the country. It's the minority seems to get the majority vote anymore.
Exactly. Agreed.
But really, you think about it, I don't know. I was just off the top of my head. I was just thinking like the Redwoods, the Mountaineers. I think Mountaineers could be another team though from another sport, but
it's Virginia Tech in college football.
Okay, But in any case, I mean, there's a lot of things out in that area that they could have thought of.
Wait, it's West Virginia,
Yeah,
not Virginia
yeah.
Tech.
I mean, I don't think this name is used anymore because it was the name of a hockey team up in Cleveland, but they could have been the Lumberjacks.
Yeah, they could have been.
I mean, there's the Redwoods, the Lumberjacks.
They could have left the damn name alone, like
Well, that too, but that was too
like
simple.
they should have done.
I
but-
mean, hey, they're still trying to change the Indians' name so that they could go to Lumberjacks.
Well, I've seen I don't pay attention to the media not that much anymore because I have better things to rot my brain with, but
Yeah.
I saw some reports that they actually have asked some like Native American tribes
Yeah.
like in Oklahoma and New Mexico and Arizona, and they're asking the elders, and they're like, some of them are like, have the same response to me when somebody brings up the word football. They have like the same, like, you know, Scooby-Doo, like,
Yeah.
you know, they're asking these elders, are like, are you offended that this team is called the Redskins? And he's like, who?
Yeah.
What are you talking
Yeah,
about?
exactly.
Hang on a second, everybody.
You are our Browns team, a Cleveland fan's dream. You make us happy when winning
Come on, sing along.
games. Through good or bad times, we'll stick beside you. Please don't take our brownies away. The past few seasons, we have been dreaming that a new day would surely come. A dangerous feeling has been awakened, so we'll stand up and proudly exclaim, you are our Browns team, a Cleveland fan's dream. You make us happy when winning games. Through good or bad times, we'll stick beside you. Please don't take our brownies away. Please don't take our brownies away.
I don't know who did that song. Do you remember, Flora?
Yes, that was done by a family in Rittman, the Roofners.
Yeah, the Roofners. We thank them for
A young.
giving us the rights to play that.
Yeah,
That's a cool song. That's done by that whole family, and it even for a ukulele tune, it's pretty cool.
You know, the difference in 21 years is if Haviland would try to take the Browns, I think the majority of Ohio would be like, okay,
No,
have fun.
no,
probably not.
no.
Sorry,
no.
Dale. No. We wouldn't give them up again. Nope.
Nope, we're stuck with. I mean, we have what we have, and I'm going to tell you what. I watched. Eric, you've been watching the games.
Yeah. I was able to watch a little bit of today's game, but I was down in Alliance for a lot of it.
The running backs are the best I've seen since Kevin McIntyre. And
I've heard people say they're even better than Matt.
that pair is just flipping awesome, and the other teams just don't know what to do with it. And that's I'm starting to see reminiscence of the '80s team. Yeah, the couple of the 1980s Browns teams, and you wait, they're going to get better. I still think the defense has got some work it needs done. They need to get a couple more people healthy, and they need to get them on the right track. That defense is a little almost like Swiss cheese, and they're running way too easily against them. The next week they play the Dallas, the Cowboys or the Texans.
Cowboys.
Okay,
Cowboys.
They play the Cowboys, and that's going to be a good test. That's probably going to be, if they hang in it like they should, that's going to be a good game. And probably some of the toughest competition they've come up against since Baltimore. We won't go into that. I've been watching other teams in the league. Of course, I've been following the Pittsburgh Sucks team, and they didn't look that. I watched about 5 minutes of that game this afternoon. They didn't look that good. But hopefully, the Browns will get them on an off day, and we'll be able to put another win up against them. But it's. A couple of weeks ago, I was told there needed to be an intervention. I don't know. There can't be an intervention now. It's just.
Dave, we just can't do much more.
Yeah, Dave, sorry. Sorry, Dave, it's just not, You heard Flora's song last week, She kept telling me to let it go. She did. For anybody that missed that, she did a rendition of Let It Go from the movie Frozen. And it was Pat Let It Go.
Yeah.
I think that's why they're winning.
Yeah, I guess.
But anyway, Eric, let's start on your topic first, and we'll go into some of this other stuff we got.
So, my topic is education and where kind of I think it's failing the youth of today. And my biggest thing that I'll keep kind of harkening back on is the fact that everything is taught to a test now. It's not taught. Well, hold on. It's taught to a test, so the teachers they're forced to rush their plans, their lesson plans, because they have to force so much content into so little time that the students are being set up to fail in that way.
When you start talking about universal testing, and I take it that's where this is headed. I've been against that for a long time.
I didn't think about that till you just said that, but that's what Ella was going through last week.
The universal testing tries to keep everybody on the same level, and 8 times out of 10 it don't work. It does nothing but frustrate the kids. You start doing where it's supposed to improve the faculty and the school ratings. It really, I'm not so sure it does that. Your kids are it's like taking a lot of it. I would think is like taking a memorization test. And I will admit that amateur radio is like that. The kids are going to get it drilled into them and drilled into them and drilled into them, and then 10 years later, or 5 years later, or even a couple of weeks later, it's not gonna take and make any difference. The message here. The whole thing of it is, you're making somebody memorize something is one thing. The chances of their recalling it down the road, the chances of them, I can't think of the word I want to use. There is a word for that. The chances of them using what they've had the information. I mean, let's look at it this way. When's the last time any of us here in this room used algebra? When's the last time you used algebra, Dale?
Considering I didn't pass algebra anyway.
About the only thing I've ever used was doing ratios. Otherwise, actual traditional algebra, geometry, trig. I've never used it.
And, you know, the whole thing is set up to where they want you to, they want you to be college equipped with this stuff. And to be honest about it, I had a hell of a time passing college algebra. But I ended up passing it because I had an instructor that actually knew how to teach the damn stuff. Finally, after like 6 tries. And once that happened, I was able to take it and pass the test. Do I use algebra? I would have to say no. At least not in the design of it, as it was designed for, you know, for people to going in through life. I'll see, like on Facebook, you'll see this, you'll see an equation on Facebook that somebody says, what's the answer to this? It'll be 2 + 2, parentheses, 2 times 2, parentheses, equals what? Now, most people, it's funny the way people's minds work. And it amuses me. You'll get people that'll take that 2 + 2 and add it, and then they'll take the 2 + 2 in the brackets and add them, and then times 2, and the whole thing comes out an astronomical answer. The actual first law of algebra is called PEMDAS. That's parentheses. That's the order of operations is what they call it. That's parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract.
Addition,
Gee, I'm pretty smart for a 66-year-old man, huh? Anyway, the order of operations will give you that answer, but if you don't know that order of operations, you're never going to figure that out. Your answers will come up wrong every time because you didn't work. And people get ticked off because you say, that's not the right answer. Or somebody says, that's not the right answer. Well, I got this. Well, you didn't use the order of operations. And, you know, math is math. You know, it's a way to figure it out. It's a way to figure it out. I'm not going off on a tangent here, but what the whole thing comes down to is a lot of times you really don't need to use algebra. You're not ever going to use. When's the last time somebody said, hey, Dale, who was the 16th president of the United States?
Yeah, I know. Don't even get me. If you think when Dave and I took over the podcast with the trucking, you don't want to get me riled up about this whole educational thing, because this whole topic, it just infuriates me because it's wasting money. It's just wasting money. It's wasting time, and there's only one chance you have to inspire these young minds before you're pretty much doomed. Of lack of a better word, because it's exactly what Pat was saying. It's like, when's the last time you used any of this? And it's like, you haven't. And the educators always, not the teach. I'm saying like the actual. I call them the executives or the people that are in charge of the school boards. They say, well, we have a finite time to impress these young minds before, so that it's like a sponge, which is true. When you're young, you absorb things much faster than you do when you're older. But it's the fact of you're impressing these young minds with information that they don't need. I mean, you go on, like I said, I don't want to rant on this whole, but there's just so much I want to say. I could talk on this for like hours and days, but basically, this to sum up before I go off on a rant is, if we would be much better off if they would just teach children and the young adults what they need to know, and then spend, because the whole idea of like college, they say everybody needs to go to college. No, not everybody needs to go to college. You should be able to be a functioning adolescent, young adult by the time, and in this day and age, because of the of people maturing. I don't know if it's just me, but people seem to be maturing at a much younger age than what we used to, 30, 40 years ago. And I think that they should be a functioning young adult and being able to do a checkbook, should know how to open up a checking account, should know how to do, to figure out how to do your own taxes and stuff by the time you're probably, 14, I'd say, ninth grade. I think by that time you should be able to do everything that an adult can do, and I think the next 4 years of the high school should be something that's more of an elective studies, saying, and it is true, you don't know what you want to be when you're 14. I didn't know what I wanted to be when I was 25. I didn't know what I wanted to be when I was 30.
You don't know what you want to do now.
I don't know. This whole career that I've had for 17 years was something I was going to do until I figured something else out. And guess what? I still haven't figured something else out. So I just think
I totally agree. I totally agree with you, Dale. And I know sorry to cut you off.
No.
And I'll get into that in a little bit because I do have somewhere else I want to take this. But sorry to cut you off. I just wanted to say I totally agree with you. Go ahead and finish what you were saying, Dale.
Oh, no, that's a problem. I was just messing with Pat because he was trying to focus me in the image, and I'm moving. I'm not sure if you're watching it.
A moving
because I can't see myself. Oh, I can see myself now. He actually brought it up on the other one. Because before I always had to use Flora's monitor to see if I was in frame, and then Pat would move, and then I would move again.
Well, I'm focused.
By the way, I don't see any of you. I just see Crooked River.
Oh no!
Oh, that's because of the. You have to watch the Facebook feed in order to see it.
No.
But we can see you.
Yeah.
Now, I've had some classmates from high school that are teachers. I've lost track how many there are. I think that I know of. I'm thinking there's at least, I'd say 5 to 7, even more, because I know, without saying their names out loud here, I'm thinking there's one. I can probably name at least 7 or 8 of them that I know that are school teachers, and what they've told me over the years is like the lesson plans. That's something that they figure out through the curriculum of what they want to teach the children. They have to submit that to the school board, and the school board approves it. And what the problem is the school teachers get really frustrated because some school districts in some states, they have such a narrow leash, or I guess that's a bad metaphor, but a narrow path that they're allowing them to take the children down, and they pretty much have to choose. And like this is like years ago. I can't remember. I think one friend was telling me I think he was doing history the one year, and it was more like really frustrating to him because it was the fact of, okay, we have, and I can't remember what grade this was, like off the top of my head, but I'm thinking it was like maybe, I don't know, 8, 10 years old. I can't remember, but anyway, he was like, well, when you think of, and this was, we're up to what, 1776, so that's 244 years of history. So this was, maybe 10 years ago or so. So you figure we had 230 some years of United States history. How do you choose what's important? And when we had this discussion, when we were out, I think we were out having dinner or we were playing cards or something, and we were talking, and I said, I'm more of like the big picture type of person. It's also how they train us for driving commercial vehicles. They call it having the big picture I'm not going to go into that, but it's basically knowing what's going on around you and not what's just in front of you. You know, think of what's happening a mile down the road, 2 miles down the road, 3 miles down the road, you know, that type of thing. So I've always had applied that to life ever since I've been driving. And what I told him in our discussion was, it's even more complicated than that, because you have to think, is this going to be important 5 years from now? Is this going to be important 10 years from now? Because this is one thing that really irritated me when I would go on to these interviews when I was in IT for some of these, because I didn't have the quote-unquote proper degree for whatever I was applying for. And I would try to articulate and reason with some of these HR people and these hiring people, saying, not in any way trying to be insulting or demeaning to, you know, the money and the time that they spent getting their degree, but it's to the fact of, I think education is useless if you have nothing that you've retained from it or nothing you're benefiting from. Because, like what Pat was just pointing out, my favorite thing was like, okay, Dale, you fit all the requirements, you've got the experience, you've got this and that, you got this, but we can't hire you until you can tell us who the emperor of China was in the 5th century. And it's like,
Well, who was it?
you know, yeah, and it's just ludicrous things. It's like, I think the diplomas and everything, the degrees that people have, if they're going to enforce that and saying you must have a bachelor's in arts and a business administration, you must have a master's in social economics, and, you know, whatever you're going to be doing, I would say that if you want that job and they're enforcing you to have that degree, I think they should have a college professor draw up a final exam, and if you do not pass that final exam, you should not get that job. I'm dead serious about that. Because I've known people, when I delivered in the hospitals, I knew some of the people that had like $300,000 in student loans.
Most of those pharmacists down there, Mercy, for one.
Yeah, and then this one lady, I mean, granted, the one guy I knew, he was in charge of the one pharmacy at one of the hospitals I delivered to. I never asked him how much he made, but I knew what kind of car he drove, because we were both car enthusiasts. We like talking about cars and stuff like that. And I knew that his wife had a Audi Q5, Q8 or something. I mean, it's like a $90,000 SUV. So you have to figure they're making pretty good money, but when you ask them, they're finding out that, oh yeah, I've got like $500,000 in student loans.
And that this is not something that's not common.
Yeah.
You got I can recite story after story about women in the pharmaceutical field that I deal with 5 days a week that have told me, I've got $400,000 in student loans I'm still trying to pay off. This one girl that at the first hospital I go to, she says, my daughter just got a job here, and she says, I thank God for that. She did the college, and she's got $385,000 of outstanding loans. And she says, we've paid on that the whole time she's been going.
Yeah.
There's got to be a point where, is she going to get $385,000 worth of education? That's the big thing. Is she going to take and get her money's worth out of that? Is she going to take and start being able to see patients? Doctors on the other side are somewhat excusable, but even their knowledge, that's an ongoing
Yeah, but
thing.
some pharmacists need to know have to have more education than a doctor.
That's what
that's all an ongoing thing, and it's absurd.
Yeah, that's what the head of the pharmacist at one of the hospitals I delivered to, because I asked him, it's just out of curiosity when I first started, because I did that for 3 years. I asked him when I got to know him, I didn't want to get too personal stuff with but after I got to know one another, I asked him, I said, what really is the difference as far as education and certificates and licensing, and that? How much different are you from like a surgeon or from a doctor, and he's like, "Oh, I know more than some of the doctors here at this hospital." I mean, I've done some corrections on on prescriptions of things, saying, "No, you cannot give that patient this because this interacts with this and this interact in this, and if you're going to do this, you have to do this." And, but he said, "Well, why aren't you? I mean, you could probably make even more money." And it's just the fact of, I don't like blood. I cut myself. I'm like,
Yeah.
here, put it on there for me. Put the bandit on me for me, please.
So one of the things with education.
Eric, come up on the mic a little, please.
Okay.
Thank
Can
you.
you hear me better now?
Yeah.
One of the things that bother me the most about education is the quote-unquote new way they're doing math. I don't know if you guys have
I've seen it.
Common Core math.
Oh, 1 plus
Yes.
1 plus 1 is 7.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I tried to help the little one, a year ago, and I was like, I can't do
1
this.
plus 1 plus 1.
I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. It's like, really? You have to... You
Equals
can't
a
just
tree
get
standing in the
answer-
forest.
Yeah. You don't just get an answer. You have to do 800 steps
Yeah.
to get it. And it's like, how did you get this? I'm lost at the third step.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
Like,
not alone.
what is that teaching kids? I mean, in a regular job, usually you're not told, you need to show me step by step how you do this.
In a regular job, if you were
A regular job, you get a calculator.
if you were to take as long to do that, your butt would be out the door.
Exactly.
Well, it comes down to critical thinking. That's what they're not teaching.
Yeah, that's what they're trying to think with that. That's what they're trying to teach with
We're
that, and
talking
it's not
about
working.
Common Core math.
Well, I mean, there's a difference between the Common Core math and critical thinking, because critical thinking
You wanna weigh
is
in?
you would look at that and saying, okay, instead of trying to do multiplication tables by taking your first knuckle and second knuckle and third knuckle and counting on those, or however they're doing it now, you would think of a better way of doing it, because when you actually get into the higher math classes, you realize that that multiplication and division
I was trying to see if Melissa wanted to weigh in on Common Core math, because she probably has a bigger opinion about it than I do.
are
so.
basically multiple additions and subtractions. That's really all math is. When you get down to the binary logic of the computers, of what I learned how to back in the 90s when I was in school, when I was to do IT work, and it's basically the same thing. Computers don't do division and subtraction. Basically, all the ones and zeros are basically, it's binary math, is all nothing but additions and subtractions. And to complicate this whole thing, saying 3 times 4 is 12, and 4 times 4 is 16, 12 and 12 is 144, that's overcomplicating things. That's not using critical thinking. Critical thinking is saying, okay, I mean, it's like shorthand. I understand to say you don't want to go and write down 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, but it's more of the fact that you can think of it in your head. You can say 12 and 12, okay, that's 144. This is 34. This is 64. That's why I don't want to get in the rank. This what so infuriates me is like, why are you making it so complicated? These poor kids are going to have a complex by the time they're 10.
Yeah, Ella's almost there.
I mean, serious. I'm not making a joke.
I know.
They're going to have a nervous breakdown by the time they have to take their, they're already doing pre-qualifying for college in 8th grade.
Exactly.
9th grade.
And to go back to what you said about things need to be, by you I mean Dale, about things being more taught to real life, like, how to balance a checkbook. I remember after my sophomore year, financial literacy was eliminated, and they moved these financial literacy teachers down to middle school teaching like a cooking class or something.
Yeah, it's like business math. They don't even do that anymore.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
See, we had general business. That's what I had.
Mm-hmm. but it's just ridiculous. They need to take aptitude tests maybe when they're in 7th grade, and then see what their strengths are, teach classes that are in their strengths, or start them toward a career path when they're in, a freshman in high school, instead of making them wait till they're a junior in high school. Make them do a 4-year career in that, almost like a trade school at the high school level.
Exactly. That's my thinking, because that's why I said that they should be at the, maybe not mentally in that, because there's maturing that you have to do, but I think as far as being able to do adult functions, you should be able to do that by the time you're 14, 9th grade. You should be able to do everything an adult can do as far as being able to function in society. Because, I think Ohio's emancipation age is 17, 18, something like that.
Yeah, I think it's 17.
So, you're 3 years away from being considered an adult. So you should be able to interact in an adult way. And I think those last 4 years of high school, exactly what excuse me, exactly what another notifications. These phones are so distracting. It's the same thing that Erik was saying. It's almost like that dog from Up. Squirrel.
Yeah.
Because the thing lights up and then it goes, like my phone lights up and I don't, not on the screen long enough for me to see what it says, and it goes dark again. But anyway, what Erik was saying, I think those last 4 years of high school, and it's like I said before, you don't know what you want to be when you grow up, but at least have the education of being able to go into a place and being able to do something. The last 4 years should be, okay, don't get hobbies. Like the whole thing of YouTube and stuff, you can see, all different things of what people are doing. And let's just, for example, a person says, oh, I like doing, I don't know, name something. I was watching them unload a truck with the forklift and that, and they're scanning the product and doing all this stuff. That kind of looks interesting to me. Well, what would you need to know when you're in high school, let's just say in the new thing where you're entering 9th grade, and now this is your development phase of preparing you to have a job? Well, what do you need to know how to do that work?
The only thing that
you would need to know how to use the computer. You would need to know how to mechanics of physics, a little bit of knowing that if you have a 4,000-pound pallet on the end of that forklift, you know that you're going to have to tilt it backwards and weight transfer and stuff like that, or any other type of
apex adjustments.
Yeah, so that's where some of this, where I call useless education, it becomes useful. Because why would you teach 30 kids in a classroom the physics of how a forklift works when 2 of them out of 40 of them are actually going to do that?
The thing of it is, how are you going to choose? And this would be a problem I would see the schools having, and I would never trust them to do any of this.
Well,
how are you going to pick what kid goes into what class?
That's a whole other can of worms that you just brought up.
The whole thing of it is, if you got a kid that's actually smart.
Yeah, the aptitude test area.
If you got a kid that was smart that's skimming his way through school, I did that. I was a pretty smart cookie, but my damn grades were D's and below a lot of times. You know why? Because I didn't feel like doing it, and I didn't apply myself, and my mother didn't really make me apply myself, but I knew what I was doing.
Yeah, there was some classes.
There was stuff I remember about high school that, to this day, I'll bet 99% of the people that were in that same class with me couldn't pick a word of it out.
Yeah, but there were some classes I failed in high school. My parents never punished me for, because they're like, "Oh, that's just BS.
And
you're never going to need it."
The whole thing of it is, how do you pick this? And when it comes down to the making kind of the herd concept of these schools like they're doing, you're teaching a herd.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if part of the herd wants to learn it, we're going to get into herd mentality here in a little bit. I found an article here. We started this topic back in the last show. There's a little bit of I found a thing on the herd style of immunity, and it's a pretty interesting article. We'll go into that in a little bit.
Now this is why I didn't.
How in the hell are you going to pick?
Yeah.
You know, especially when you got people like me that are just kind of skimming through the school just because they can.
Well, I mean, if they can find stuff that interests you, you know, a career path that interests you, that through an aptitude test, then teach you the stuff that.
That's it. If you're skimming through school, even the aptitude test, you ain't gonna do well at, because you're just skimming. You know, I don't care. I'll do what I gotta do, and pretty much that's it.
If it's something that you're interested in, if the test shows, and usually with aptitude tests, I would think they take what the strongest subject that that you did, and would try to teach that, whatever subject you showed the strongest in, they would put you down a path for that.
Yeah, this is the reason why I didn't reply to your Facebook Messenger post about this, Eric. It wasn't that I was ignoring you. It's just the fact that you can tell I would have still been typing, as you can tell.
And he would have been too.
Because
you wouldn't have been on the show.
Responding to the post.
You would have been getting thousands of words.
Oh, you probably would have blocked me. I was sending so much stuff because this infuriates. Only because it's part of my own. Don't know how to articulate that, but it's more about my own frustration of my own education growing up. Is the fact that I told my parents when I got a job in IT and I told them I'm leaving college, and my parents were like, "No, you're not." I said, "Give me a year," and they're like, "Okay." And a year later, I was making, more than what it took my dad, 30 years to make. Mm-hmm. And they're like, "Oh, never mind then." So, I mean, but I agree with Pat. There's no simple answer. I mean, how do you try to figure out what the child wants? But I think a lot of this has to be, they have to find a middle ground. They have to find a way of figuring out, and nothing's going to be perfect. This is never going to be a perfect thing, because you're going to have inner city schools where if they don't, I mean, it's like one of those, like, I had a friend that worked in some inner city schools around the state, and it's pretty much where the faculty meeting basically told him point blank, he said, "Don't bother doing roll call. If somebody doesn't want to listen, just ask them to leave. If they don't leave, they have the security come in, they'll take them out of the room." I mean, it's to the point, And he said, in fairness, that really didn't happen that often. He said there were some that were just sort of like the alpha male trying to, show off to his friends. Right. But he grew up in another state, and he pretty much, not to go in his thing, but he pretty much would not back down. He's pretty much, because of his upbringing, of where he grew up out west, and he was like, "Come at me, bro. You want to disrupt my class? Come at me."
Oh my! I could tell a few stories about some things that I saw.
He wasn't like, he was just telling me, he wasn't, saying that to the kid, because that's, provoking. Well, I mean, he did
thinking back to my days, but
well, I can't. We had this conversation. It had to have been, 8-10 years ago, so I can't remember the specifics, but he was saying it tactfully in a way, but he was posturing, saying, "Okay, you want He said, "You want to disrupt my class? Okay, come on.
Yeah.
You want to show how tough you are?
Let's
Yeah,
Yeah.
come on." And he was into MMA at the time.
Okay.
I mean,
Sorry, what's MMA?
mixed martial arts.
Oh, okay.
Let's just say that he could probably, I don't know, crush bowling balls with his thighs type. You know that type. I mean, he was built.
I know a few women like that.
Patrick, behave. Good God.
And so he
there are children present.
I mean, he even looked built. He wasn't like The Rock or any of them like that, all roided up. But he filled out a T-shirt, and so I mean, that's what this whole topic. I mean, I really don't know. I think I want to give some of the educators. When I say educators, I'm not talking about teachers. I'm talking about the management, the school districts, the state level people. I do want to give them some credit and say it's not all their fault, but I'm thinking a lot of it is they don't know what to do because they weren't taught how to do this. I mean, it just comes before you. I mean, it's sort of like, not going off on a tangent, but it's like I've never had children, but it's more of like when you have your parents, if your parents are still alive, you may have them to fall back on. But really, when you think about it, the people say it's like, and it's ingrained in your brain, you know how to raise children. No, you don't. You've walked through Walmart, you've walked through Target, you know that there are people that do not know how to be parents.
Oh, I see that on a daily basis.
Yeah. So, but my whole point of that is, they say, well, you just that's what I was thinking of, instinctually know how to do that. No, you don't have that instinct. It's to be honest, and don't want to be mean or crass or anything, because I'm single, I've never had children, but my reaction to hearing a baby cry is, my heavens, find me some duct tape.
I guess that's why you're not a parent, huh?
Honestly, I've been told by family and friends that I would make a great father, because I do have a lot of compassion. I just see it like sarcastically, but I told him, I said, no, you really don't understand my level of irritation. I mean,
well, I have always said, God knew I did not have the patience for more than one child, and that's why he only gave me one. But of course, he blessed me with 2 grandchildren that now all 3 of them live here. So
And me.
And you, yes,
Well,
yes, you as well. But it's like, is he punishing me now for for
I've talked to him.
giving me a break about only having one kid?
I have a lot of respect for parents, and even the ones that are struggling or are not great parents. I still have a lot of try to have respect for even them, because I try to put myself. This is one of the things I've been trying to do the past 5-10 years, is put myself in other people's shoes, to try not, because how they always say, judge not, And so I've been trying to do that, and trying to think, well, how would I handle that situation? The kid's just screaming, and to the point where he's just like about ready to turn into the Tasmanian devil and tear the store apart. And I have to think, well, what would I do to calm the kid down? And I'm thinking, I have no flipping clue.
Well, I have to.
I would probably be on the speed dial of Child and Protective Services, probably.
Well, I have to say, Friday afternoon I was in a meeting. It was Friday morning, whatever, 10:30. Oh, hello, 10:30 to 11 o'clock, and I had my like headphone things on in this meeting, and I had my mic muted. But I'm there, and I hear this 7-year-old, upstairs, and she's screaming at the top of her lungs. Her mother and her are going back and forth, and I'm pulling the thing away from my face, and I'm going, what the hell is going on upstairs? Now, they could see me. They couldn't hear me, but they could see me. At the end of the meeting, I spoke because there was a question had come up that I wanted answered. And I told him, I said, well, the boss was like saying, and this is a boss that's like 2 or 3 bosses above mine. And she says, well, we're going to wrap things up now. And, and I got, because my question was like the last one. And I was sharing things. And then I says, I said, something's going on upstairs. I said, I'm not even sure. I want to go up there and find out what it is. I says, and they said, oh, don't you just love homeschooling? It's like, I love it, all right.
It kind of looks like she's got some red hair there.
It was supposed to be purple, from what I understand. They had crazy hair day at the church tonight, so that's what
how
this
it
was.
works.
Yeah.
I thought her mother was dyeing her hair.
No.
Pink
Oh
hair, Papa.
What's the matter?
It was supposed to be pink hair.
Oh, pink hair. Oh. Well, guess what? Your red roots are coming out. You're gonna look like Grandma.
Well, I'll tell you what. We got about
Sweetheart.
an hour and 4 minutes left,
Here, why don't
and
you?
I got a couple more topics that I want to cover.
Let's
Can I
Erik,
just finish off by saying real quick?
Go ahead.
One other thing that really annoys me is the grading scale, like the A, B, C, D, F. Because if you have to take a test for a job, it's either you pass or you fail. There's no in between. So get off that. You either pass the test or you fail the test. There's no A, B, C, D,
No, it's coming.
That kind of stuff.
I
It's
agree.
just you pass or you fail.
I agree, because one thing I'll point out to sum this all up is when you go into your lawyer's office, you go into your doctor's office, you see the diplomas of the pharmacists when you go to pick up your pharmaceuticals and all that. It doesn't say on there, and unless the person was what they call summa cum laude and whatever type of accolades, but in general speaking, it doesn't say that Philip Smith graduated with this degree and had a 3.9 grade point or whatever. No, it just says, according to the Ohio State University, he has successfully completed the course as prescribed by the Department of Education. It doesn't say that, he was a C student and basically chased women around in a drunken maze and... No, it says he passed. The people that didn't pass, guess what? They don't have a diploma.
Yeah. And they're going to keep trying till they get it, no matter if they get D's and F's or what.
Yeah, that's what my dad always had this phrase he told me. He said, just remember, when you go into the doctor's office, not all of them were A students.
Excuse me, oh my.
Anyway, let's... Flora, you got a question or two?
Oh. I was going to say, I got a question. My ears are hurting here. Let's see.
Let's drop into a couple of Flora's Corners questions, and then we'll get into the other meaty subject that I've got.
This looks like a good one. If you could be a breed of dog, what breed would you be? What's that?
Who wants to go first?
Hello? I'd like to be a Chihuahua. I think I'd make a... No, wait. I changed my answer. I want to be a Norwegian Elkhound. That breed of dog is the most in-tune dog that I think I ever met in my life. So I'd like to be a Norwegian Elkhound.
I think I'd go for the German Shepherd myself. I got that mentality. I can be mean, but I think before I'm mean. How about you, Eric? What kind of dog you
I
want
would
to
say
be?
a Jack Russell.
Oh, okay.
Jack Russell.
A terrier, all
Because
right.
they're small, but very full of energy.
And
So yeah.
Dale?
I don't know. Well, my main one, but the other one I like just because of the name. But the one that I'd probably be would be like the Saint Bernard. He just sort of lays around, and he's occasionally useful.
And drinks out of a little jug under his...
Yeah, it's pretty much.
He's got his.
Yeah, you just just lays around, and it's like, oh, somebody needs help. Okay, I'll go do it, come back, and lay back down. I'm like, okay, back to doing nothing again. But the other one, I just like the name because it seems to be like interbreeding is popular more so than it was. I don't know, maybe 30, 40 years ago. But I'd like to be a bull shih tzu.
Bullshitsu. Okay.
That's a real thing.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, labradoodles.
Okay, labradoodles I've heard of, but I had never heard of a bullshitsu.
Yeah. Yeah, it's terrier and shih tzu, and there's a shih tzu. Yeah. Yep, you have to look them up.
Yes, we will have
Is
to.
there a dog's name with an F on it?
I don't know.
Frank Russell Terrier. I don't know.
I have no idea. Uh-oh. What are you doing?
I don't.
And you could, if you had a cross with a Jack Russell Terrier, a Bulldog, and a Shih Tzu, you'd have a full of Shih Tzu.
Full of shih tzu.
This is for you.
Is it for me?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. All right, want to do one more?
Let me see.
I need to make up a little theme song for her. Just for that.
Okay. What's your favorite holiday?
Favorite holiday? Anybody?
I'd say
Christmas.
any day that I'm not working.
I'd have to say probably, I like Thanksgiving pretty well. Thanksgiving or Christmas is pretty cool. And I think if it couldn't be Thanksgiving or Christmas, mine would almost have to be Halloween. Halloween's a fun time. And then All Saints Day is the day after that, and that's pretty cool too. But
I know you had it. This probably won't be something in the segment, but I know you had something that kind of pissed you off to do with Christmas this week, Pat. We were talking about
oh yeah, I knew you were gonna bring that up.
Yeah, you know me, I think enough.
All right. I want to introduce a few things here. We might as well start that.
My
segment.
favorite holiday is Thanksgiving.
Oh,
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I forgot. I was going to say you, and he squirreled me.
Sorry, Flora.
That's okay,
that was
Erik.
wrong.
Squirrel.
I forgive ya.
But,
Okay.
let's move into the next segment, which is going to be... What?
What?
Which is going to be...
Yeah.
These are things that really piss me off!
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
E. Snyder. Did you know he got upset because some protesters were using his song?
Right, quit.
All right, we'll cover your topic first there, Erik.
Okay.
As far as
Uh,
what you mentioned, go ahead and fill in everybody in about it.
okay. There is a radio station out of Youngstown,
Oh,
I'm not
now
going
I
to say
know.
the name, that is already playing Christmas music.
Oh,
And
no.
I'm all for Christmas music. What, Dale?
No, I said, oh no.
Yeah. Okay. I'm all for Christmas music after Halloween.
Yeah.
After, well, on mainstream radio after Halloween is good, but at the end of September, that's a little early to go mainstream. And I saw the story that I know Pat saw too, and I was like, okay, why are they doing this? And I read the press release from their market manager, and they're like, well, you know, we're doing it because with coronavirus and everything, we're trying to bring spirits up. Pat, go ahead and take the floor.
Oh, thank you. Now, snap my fingers and crack my knuckles. The fact that, I'm on kind of a weird situation with this because that radio station is a Youngstown radio station. I go to Youngstown on a daily basis. It's the only one that's not in Cleveland that plays oldies. They're not doing that for what that program manager said. I'm going to tell you that right off. They're doing that because they don't have any damn money and they can't get anybody to sponsor their stinking music. And when you start, filling everybody in, they took, and that particular station will play public service announcements 3 or 4 times in a row. The stupidest commercials that are out there. They've got this one that's got this politician comes on and he says, attention America, I'm going to play something that should be very upsetting to you. I got this from the protesters. And you hear this woman shouting in the background going, "Death to America! Death to America!" It's so flippin' annoying, it's pathetic. And they play this thing over and over and over and over again. Then they play these other, there's this one that's got this, I've gotten to where I hit the volume button every time I hear it. It comes on and it says, I just thought of another one. It comes on and it says, "Oh, we're getting slaughtered. Oh, that's because Joe isn't on the team anymore. He got busted for smoking out in the parking lot." Over and over and over and over. Then there's my absolute favorite one, which is this thing that's got this, it's done by the Disabled Americans thing. Now, I've got nothing against that group, but man, get a different commercial that doesn't annoy people. That's the whole thing in a heartbeat. It comes on and it says, "Well, we were driving down the road in Afghanistan, and a bomb blew off," and then it changes voices, and we were this and that and the other. 1 or 2 times a day would be fine. I got no problem with that. 14 times in 2 hours is a bit much. And what this is telling me, this isn't telling me anything but that station's not making any money off their promotions. They're not making enough money to support what they need to be doing, and they're not getting commercials. And this is why we're going all automation, and all we're going to do is automate Christmas tunes on the 25th of September at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. This is when that all started. Now, myself, I got no problem with Christmas music as long as it's in the month of December.
Exactly.
This crap about starting it after October 31st, December, September 25th, come on, people. I love Christmas, but I don't love it that much. And by the time you overplay this stuff, you're going to chase all your listeners away because they don't want to listen to it either. I drive around listening to their station because I want to hear the oldies they're playing. Not oldies Christmas music, the oldies. When they play stuff. In fact, if you listen close enough to that station, you'll hear some of its influences on our promos that are on here, because I follow a lot of them and I do a lot of what they do. And they're taking in. Do you think Do you think for 1 minute I'm going to start Christmas music on September 25th? You don't know me very well, then, do you? But that's my point with that. I cannot believe that they do this stuff. I don't know what the programming people are thinking, except for the fact that they're probably not making any money.
Excuse me.
And they're changing format, and the industry, the recording or the radio industry has been in the tubes for years, and it's not getting any better with what it's doing now.
Because the problem is not just with that station, but everything is so corporately run, and I think you and I have talked about this off the air.
This corporate crap is killing radio. When you have, I've always wondered when Clear Channel and all of them started, when they did away with that law that you couldn't own more than one station. I knew this was what was going to happen, and these companies are taking on so much it's bankrupting them.
For anybody who is listening out there, I would suggest watch on Amazon Prime Video a documentary called I forget now. Corporate FM. That's it. Corporate FM. And it documents exactly how corporate power mostly screws over the stations. How the corporate companies mostly give the DJs a list of what they have to play.
Well, any kind of playlist is going to only be about 1,500 songs. Do you know that?
True.
And sometimes not that. Sometimes they do as low as 850. I've done my studying on this too. That's one of the reasons I try to carry 2,000 or more songs, because it stretches your playlist out.
Well, another one of the reasons for the automation, and this was when it first started, and I remember I was at some, I can't even remember what it was, but it was something that, I can't remember if it was at a fair or something. It's been too many years ago. This was maybe like a decade or so ago. And I'm not going to say the name of the station, even though it may be a moot point now, but I'm not going to say the name of the station. But they were were doing the remote, and then they were done, and they're tearing down their remote operations and all that. And I saw the one, I guess you call them DJs or whatever, the radio hosts, and I listened to them, and I was just talking to them, and I just asked them just some curiosity questions of why do it seems like, I don't know, it's weird. It's like I always hear the same song at this time, and it just seems kind of like not just luck. Luck. And he was like, just a second, I thought he was just preoccupied or something with whatever they were doing. So he went and said something to whoever is bundling cables up and all that, and he says, "Come here," and we started walking away. And I guess he did this because he wanted to be discreet, and he was like, "Yeah, the way they're doing it is we pay ASCAP royalties, and that one song we have to pay 20. I mean, I think Pat and you Eric, would know more of the details.
0.0018 cents.
Yeah, it's something like that. Okay. Yeah, I was just going to use the example of like 25 cents per 1,000 plays or whatever. And he was saying that one of the jobs that he has because he said, because I always asked, because one of the other questions I asked him was about, because I remember like, what was the one from WKDD that retired and then he passed away suddenly? Matt Patrick, yeah. I remember I met him on a school field trip.
Matt was a good guy.
And he was really nice. And I actually met him again at another remote that I spoke to.
I can tell you a little story about Matt Patrick. Go ahead and finish your thought, and then I will.
Okay, well, anyways, just to sum up what I was going to say is, he was saying that he would talk about how he had, was it 4 hour? He said he was only on air for 4 hours, but he actually worked like 8 or 10 hours. He said he actually did some work at home, and this other, host from another different radio station in the area, and I asked him about it. I said, I don't want to get personal. I asked you, how you get paid and everything, but are you only like working like 3 hours a day? And he said, oh, that's just my on-air. He said, I get a higher pay for on-air pay, and then I have a regular pay for my other they call it administrative work. And I said, well, what do you actually do? Is this picking the playlist? And he said, yeah, it's pretty much picking the playlist, and I have to get all the advertising set up, make sure it's recorded, and yada, yada, yada. And he said that then it goes to the production manager of the station, and he says they have to go through and figure out if I'm playing a certain song too many times, because he said that they had like call-ins, where you ever notice how they pre-screen call-in things for like requests for songs and that, and they have to do that for exactly what Pat and what Erik is saying is the ASCAP royalty fees, is they have to pay for that, and if he plays a song too many times, they can't play it for X number of months or even a year. Or
according to what the ASCAP and all those rules are, you are not allowed to play you're not allowed to play the same artist 3 times within a 2 hour time.
Hour and a half?
I think it was hour and a half or 2 hours. You're not allowed to play the same different tracks of the same album. If you go over 3, you're violating their rules. They're pretty stringent about what that stuff is. And it's easy, especially when you're running an automated system like we've got here. The thing will screw up every once in a while, and I virtually a lot of times have to remote in and hit the reject button or hit the move, the next play button, because I don't want to be outside of their rules.
And technically, isn't there like a rule that you can't cut off songs either?
I don't know so much about that.
Because I know that's what Earl would tell me back when he...
Well, I try not to do that here anyway.
Yeah.
A lot of times if we're about to go on the air and something else starts, I'll just go ahead and let it play. And then we'll just start afterwards.
Yeah, it's like speaking over it.
That's just typical, courtesy for your listeners.
Oh yeah.
But if I'm 20 minutes late and there's a song that's playing that I really didn't want to play to begin with, then all bets are off.
I remember as a funny, like 10-second tangent. I remember I was listening to WMMS like in the early 2000s, and I can't remember the female DJ that was on WMMS at the time, but everybody knew that she didn't really have a fond appreciation of Green Day, and I really didn't either. They had some good songs, but I didn't really, care for them that much. And I remember they would always play Brain Stew and Jaded together because that's how they were cut on the album. Because on the album, if you actually listen to them separately, the one song, Jaded, just starts up like out of the blue. There's no lead-in because Brain Stew was the lead-in to Jaded, and so they would always play it that way, and their automation system screwed up like the last minute or last whatever thing of Jaded, and you just heard this, and then you hear this silence for like 5 seconds, and you hear her come on, and she goes, and all you hear before they go to the commercial break is this is literally all she said. She says, couldn't have happened to a better band. And then you hear a commercial. And I don't know if she got in trouble for that or not, but that was the funniest thing I ever heard a host say.
Let me tell you a little story about Matt Patrick. One of my favorite people that I've ever met in broadcasting was Mr. Patrick. Bright red hair, one hell of a guy. He was kind of thin, and he's probably just about 6 foot. I met him through a friend of mine that used to work for WCW AM and FM down in the Falls there. And their station went religious now. It's pretty much gone. But they took in Christmas of 1977 or 78. Gary and I, this friend, were making up we were sound affecting the night before Christmas. And I took and Gary said, well, we need to take and bring this down to Matt. You know, I know he'll air it. So Christmas Eve of that year, we walked in there, and I met him, and he played that thing that we sound affected, and about laughed himself off the chair. It was a good thing there wasn't any microphones open, because you wouldn't have been able to hear the song over his laughter. He was just belly laughing out loud, and from that point on, every time I probably saw him a good 6 or 8 times during the next couple of 3 years, and then the station went under and he moved on. Well, he really never forgot who I was. I saw they were him and this lady were over here at Acme. I think they were over here for an anniversary or something. It was a couple of years ago. And I go walking in there. I was still working, so that had to have been about 2008. I go walking in there, and I just walked up. I walked up to I knew he was there because I'd been listening to it on the radio. And I walked up, and I stood there. Now, I hadn't seen him probably in about 7 or 8 years, probably. And I walked up to that platform that stage he was sitting on over there, and he looked at me, and I looked at him, and he looked at me, and he goes, "Pat, how are you?" "What? Pat, how you doing? It's been a long time, buddy. How's Gary?" We stood and talked there through one of his breaks, and that was probably pretty much the last time I saw him. One hell of a nice guy. You couldn't ask for, he was people oriented, and that's what I really liked about him. And he remembered you even if you had just met him for a short time and talked to him for a short time, he knew who you were. That was cool.
On a slight different note, Dale had brought up WMMS. Did you see one of their legendary hosts?
I saw Kinsbach is retiring. That's a shame.
Yeah.
I just hope he's not sick. And that's why he's retiring. But he's been in radio a long-ass time. We're talking like, hell, I used to listen to him back when I graduated. Him and Jeff and Flash.
Yeah.
And they were the staple on MMS mornings for a lot of years. Back almost before when FM was introduced. I can remember when all you used to do was listen to AM.
then, the MMS decided to go with all the syndicated crap.
They had,
Well, Brian and Joe, I think, were the final show after Jeff and Flash.
have you heard anything about the gentleman that works for ODOT, by the way? I wanted to ask you about that.
No, I haven't.
I have seen a couple of, in fact, he was on the news. He was on Channel 8 News here a couple of nights ago. I meant to tell you about that. They did he got talking about his accident and stuff, and they showed the car. There was a gentleman to fill everybody in on this. If you listen to our station back in, what was that, the end of April, or 1st of April?
End of April.
There was we actually we covered the NFL draft, and we invited a couple of podcasters to come on, which was, one guy's was Adam. Was that Adam and Austin?
And Andrew.
Austin and Andrew, that was it.
Yeah.
Well, the one gentleman, Austin was it, or was it Andrew?
Yeah, Austin.
Austin actually he worked for ODOT, and a couple of weeks ago he got into a pretty serious accident, and it really put him on his butt. But from what I'm seeing on TV and everything, I think he's doing the best to him and his family and everything. I hope everything works out for him.
Was he the one that was in the news that he did like the jump up Dukes of Hazzard slide back on the car? And
Yep, that was him.
That was him? Yeah, I saw that.
I didn't really realize it was him until Erik said something. Erik, come around and face the camera a little bit. All we can see is your ear. Hey, there you are.
Yeah.
Real people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched the ODOT has a YouTube channel called The Loop, I think it's called, and they have their public relations officer Matt Bruning and Erin McBride. I'm not sure what her title is as long as I've been watching it, but they're in I guess media relations or whatever in ODOT, and they've talked about the amount of accidents. I can't remember. Don't quote me on any of these numbers, but I think in just the past 9 months or so, I think they've had like 40, 45, 47 people get injured. And I think they've had, one, like I said, don't quote me on this, but I'm thinking they had maybe 1 or 2 fatalities in the past.
Well, the way this guy got hit, it could have very easily been a fatality.
But yeah, they showed some of the vehicles that were struck, and it's just a wonder that nobody was seriously injured, because they said some of these, and it wasn't just ODOT vehicles, it was like the highway patrol and some of these dash cams, and you look at the force of impact. I mean, they had the one pickup truck, it had an arrow trailer behind it, and this black SUV hits it, and it's like a, what do I call that, a pinball, where it hits that, he bounces off the concrete, dividers, bounces off the other one, bounces off the other one. That's why they're wanting you to slow down in those construction zones, is because the ripple effect. Because you have, even a car, 2,800, 3,000 pounds. You get one of those SUVs or one of those large pickup trucks, you're looking at 5,000, 7,000 pounds.
Yeah.
And with just bouncing around, it can do more damage than what people actually think, or lack of thinking.
Yeah, that's more like it's a lack of thinking.
Yeah.
I know anymore, when I see stuff on the side of the road and everything, I'm usually over in the other lane by the time I get up to it. That's part of learning how to drive. And you can even teach an old dog like me new tricks here and there. Anyway, continuing our little bit on things that pissed me off tonight. I have a video of a thing that happened down in Massillon. Dale, you might want to, if you can, you may want to. Have you seen this yet?
I don't know. I'll check it out.
You may want to take and get where you can see it.
Here.
No, I can.
Flora's already seen it, so.
And have my opinion. Yeah.
And she's going to give us her opinion on it.
All right.
I'll try.
But I've got two things that I'm going to play here. One is the actual event, and the second thing is Mike DeWine's answer to it. And this is probably going to be about 7 or 8 minutes long by the time it's done.
Anything DeWine says, always entertaining.
Oh my!
I think this is the one I want. Yeah,
It could be one of Jeff Dunham's new puppets, maybe.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. You have
I'm surprised.
He'd have an easy way to make it. He'd just have to model it off of Ralphie from the Christmas Story.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
he has Walter, and now he's gonna have Dawn.
Let's go to this. Look at this thing close, and then listen to what Mr. DeWine's got to say. We'll be back on the other side of this. You're listening to Radioactive on the Crooked River Radio Network.
For not wearing a mask. This is not a warning. Call the cops, Raven.
Call the cops?
Yeah.
Will you talk to them?
I don't know if he's a real officer.
It says police on the side and on his back.
I don't mean anything. But he may be, Bridget, because there's a cop car over there. There's a cop car over there.
Do you want to call him?
Tase somebody over a mask. Tasing this lady over not wearing a damn mask.
It's time for me to go back to Florida.
Come on, it's just so fast. And I'm going to sue you for knocking me down. I'm going to. Get my kids and let's go.
Arresting her for a mask, not wearing a
Hey,
mask,
where's
and he
your
ain't even
mask?
got one on.
Right.
Hey, where's your mask?
Remember, we're infected together now, right, guys? We've done this how many times together? How many times have we...
Oh, here comes another.
Over a mask.
Ran a cop right there.
That's some bullshit. Say he won't have a job long.
Yeah, you can't arrest somebody for not wearing a mask.
Yeah, she didn't even have hers on.
Yeah, well, I got that, so.
Did you get that?
Yep, I did. Both of them not wearing a mask.
Sure. Let me just start by saying that we're going through a difficult time. A lot of things going on. We've got a presidential election that is in its final stretches. We've got a tragedy that occurred in Louisville some months ago. We have an announcement about indictments not being returned. We have some of our citizens who, don't want to wear a mask. Most do. And I just think that whatever we can do to look at this as it really is us against the virus. On the other issues, we may have disagreements, but we have still a lot more in common as Ohioans than we don't have in common. And intolerance and love and people trying to work together, I think is important. I think it's also important as we approach these things that whether we agree with police officer or not, try to respond to that police officer. There's a time and a place to do other things and to make your point known, and you have ample opportunity to do that, whatever the situation might be. I had the opportunity this morning. I picked up the phone. I called Monty Banter, who is Logan Hawkins School District Superintendent. And I talked to him and asked him what had happened, because last night someone, as you can imagine, sent me the video, and I had the opportunity to look at the video. He told me what had happened, and I'll just quickly recount what he told me and what we've learned about that. Is that the woman was approached and asked, to put a mask on, said she had asthma. Some point they told her you could go and get a shield, come back with a shield, that'd be fine. And went back and forth for a while. And basically they asked her to leave, and she refused to leave. And the school can tell you more of the details, and the police department, I know, put out a report or a statement that I looked at this morning, so anybody can pull this down. This is the police department's report, and they can get more of the facts. But what the superintendent told me, I made some notes. He talked about the officer. He said the officer is our resource officer, works with kids all the time. To quote the superintendent, could not be a kinder person. He reminds people in a very nice way what they need to do. In this particular case, the superintendent said that she simply would not comply with his request to leave. He also pointed out that there were, he says, we're very transparent. We let everyone know what to expect. We have signs everywhere telling people what to expect, what to do. We follow the Ohio High School Athletic Association and the Ohio Department of Health rules. And then he said something that I think I'll always remember. He said, Governor, any day our kids are in school is a good day. Any day our kids are playing sports is a good day, win or lose. And we're going to try to do and follow the rules and do everything we can to have our kids continue to play. We started this discussion about schools and sports in schools a number of months ago. We wanted to keep our kids safe. We wanted to keep the people working in the schools safe. We wanted to have our kids play sports, but we didn't know how to balance all that out. And we came up with a plan that's kind of an Ohio plan, which is we let each school district make their own decision, and we let, of course, the parents make their own decision. In this particular school, they made a decision. We announced that. Then we looked at starting sports. How are we going to make sports safe? And we came up with what we were hearing from people is we want our kids to play. We want our kids to play. I get it. We've had 8 kids, and they've all played sports. We've got many grandkids that played sports. It's important. And so we said, how can we do that? And the way we did it was that we came up with some protocols and said, let's do what's important. What's important is the kids can play, number one. Number two, we want the parents or whoever is important in that child's life to be able to go to the game. And so we set that out and opened it up. Some states didn't do that. Some states restricted football. Some states restricted contact sports. We felt that it was worth the risk for these kids to be able to do this. And so we set up the protocol. And then we worked with the Ohio High School Athletic Association to come up with how this was going to be policed, quote unquote, or regulated, and how this was going to work. And they set forth guidelines, and we worked with them on doing that. We've had phenomenal success. That doesn't mean some kids may not have contracted the COVID, whether they did it in sports or not, we'll probably never know. overall, this has worked exceedingly well. And it's worked because Ohioans have done a phenomenal job. Parents have done what they needed to do. The school's done what they needed to do. The students have worn masks and done what they needed to do. And to my knowledge, I don't think there's been any other case. There might have been some, but I don't think there's any other case besides this one where we turn and we see something that's gone viral and something that clearly looks bad and something that no one wants to see. But I would just say to people who are judging the school, people who are judging that officer, people who are judging the school official who you see in the video, look, they were trying to follow the guidelines of the Ohio High School Athletic Association, the health department, with the sole purpose of they wanting their kids to play. And that's what they did. And I think if you look at, before you just look at the video, look at what led up to that video, I think that you'll get a full picture of what happened. Very unfortunate, very unpleasant to look at. No one wants to see that happen. And, it's sad when we see something like that happen. John, I know you wanted to say something.
Oh, well, Governor, yeah, I would just reiterate that, people are going through a trying time. And I know that
I can't stand that. I can't stand that guy.
You don't like John.
Well, we know that they're going through a trying time. Give me a break. And we're just going to sit here and try to smooth this over a little bit and blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah, blah. The simple fact was that woman's rights were infringed upon. She paid to get into that, as far as I know. She paid to get into that, to have the right to sit there. And then she was accosted by that damn cop. You can call it what you want, but that's what I saw. Counterpoint? I know you're chomping at the bit to get to this.
All I have to say is, from what I understood of the situation, because we don't see this from the very beginning, when she went to go into that facility, there was a sign posted outside there about...
All right. Let me counterpoint you here. There was a sign. Why didn't that cop have it on there? Have a mask on her? You heard her talking to her all the way down when that male cop had her in the handcuffs. Why didn't she have one on there?
What female cop?
The female cop that was at the bottom when they were hauling her out the door. There was a female cop that come running across there. Why didn't she have a mask on? They were talking to her about that. They were yelling at her about that. Why didn't she have one on? Does that make it any better?
Whatever, Patrick. I think you need to calm down about this stuff.
It's just a...
Because I'm just saying, though, there was, from what I understood, there was a sign outside that facility, and there were other people in that place that wore the mask like they were supposed to, and I'm sorry, I still think she was just being a glory hound. That's all she was doing. And, that's goes down to one of the things that, I've been afraid of, that some of these people are going to ruin it for other people. And she's one of them. She's going to ruin it for other people. But, no. Now, did she get arrested for not wearing a mask? No. She got arrested for trespassing because she wouldn't leave.
They had to trump the charge up so that they can get her ass out of the building.
Well, she wouldn't leave. And all they had offered her a mask. They had offered her one of those shields, and she wouldn't wear it. She wouldn't go get it.
I mean, it's ridiculous because you shouldn't need a mask if you're at an open-air event. If you're in an indoor event, I understand.
She doesn't even, to be honest about it, her rights were violated because she didn't really even need to tell them that she had asthma. According to HEPA, you don't have to tell anybody what your health problems are. That's another thing that pisses me off.
And she probably doesn't even have asthma.
Well, if she does, she does. If she doesn't, she doesn't. That's not the point. The point is the stinking mandate from wearing masks is completely ridiculous. I've said that from the very beginning about this stuff. It does absolutely no good. You see pictures on Facebook and that of the bacteria that's been taken out of some of these masks that people have been wearing. That's far more health dangerous than it is, than this damn COVID virus is. And I get wound up about this stuff. I'll be the first to admit it. But the whole thing of it is, I'm a very principled person. When you tell me something is going to be right, it better be right. That's the whole thing in a nutshell. If you tell me the sky is green and I walk out there and find out it's blue, I'm going to be pissed. If you tell me that a shade should be white and that shade comes down yellow, that's not that's not along with what you told me to believe, and I'm not going to ever trust you again for that. The whole thing comes down to that mandate that the little emperors got out there is absurd. There's no reason for it. Oh, it does really good. It does good. It's not doing no damn good. If it was doing any good, they would have made us put it on from the very beginning of the blasted COVID. They had no reason to believe it was going to do any good.
I mean, there's days I literally, I can smell this is disgusting, I know, but smell the bacteria build up so bad, I literally have to spray disinfectant on a paper towel and wipe off the inside of my mask because of the bacteria smell.
Yeah, I knew this was going to get me wound up, and I apologize, dear, but that's the way I look at it. Let's take and change subjects here. I do want to change gears here. We talked about the herd mentality, or the herd immunity.
Yeah.
And I found a really good bit on this. If you don't mind me indulging here for about another 5 minutes or so, we'll go ahead and watch this, and then we'll discuss it on the way out. I gotta find the right bit, so hang in there a minute. That's it. All right, this actually is a discussion on the herd immunity, and we talked about this a little bit last week. It's about a little bit of how they could control the virus a little bit better after the immunizations come out and stuff like that. So hang in there. We'll be right back on the other side of this. You're listening to Radioactive on the Crooked River Radio Network.
And 18 susceptible individuals. As you might remember, R0 is the average number of individuals an infected person gives the disease to. R0 is fairly constant for a given disease. R0 for the novel coronavirus SARS-CoV-2 has been estimated to range somewhere between 2 and 3. So let's say this COVID-19 patient gives the disease to these 3 individuals. And let's say these 3 individuals give the disease to 3 other individuals in turn. Then this is what the situation will look like after some time. Now let's assume that we vaccinated some of these susceptible populations such that they became immune to the virus. Now the virus can't infect the individuals it infected in the previous scenario. Now our index case only infects one other person. And due to the immunity or herd immunity of the group, this newly infected case can also only infect one other person. What we've done here is to reduce the basic reproductive ratio of 3 to an effective reproductive ratio of 1. As we've seen in a previous video, when R is equal to 1, the disease remains stable and won't grow. The herd immunity threshold is the proportion of a population that need to be immune in order for an infectious disease to become stable in that community. Or in other words, in order for R to become equal to or lower than 1. If this is reached, for example through immunization, then each case leads to a single new case and the infection will become stable within that population. So how do we know what proportion of the population needs to be immunized in order to reach herd immunity? Let's look at a disease with an R0 of 8, where one infected individual infects 8 others on average. What would need to happen for them to only be able to infect one other person? Well, we would need to immunize these 7 over here. So 7 divided by 8, or 7/8, is the herd immunity. It's calculated as R0 minus 1 divided by R0. As we've learned previously, R0 for SARS-CoV-2 is between 2 and 3. So how many people would we have to vaccinate if there was a vaccine in order for the epidemic to stop? Well, that's 2 minus 1 divided by 2, which is 1/2 or 50% if R0 was assumed to be equal to 2, and 3 minus 1 divided by 3, or 2/3 if R0 was assumed to be equal to 3. So according to this calculation, we'd have to vaccinate between 50 and 66% of the population. Now, I recently heard Mark Lipsitch, an epidemiologist from Harvard, mention in a podcast interview that the herd immunity of COVID-19, according to his data, was around 40%. I'm sure he has more complex tools to factor in other variables that could influence herd immunity. But if you want to go by the books, the calculation of herd immunity according to the formula we provided is valuable and valid. By the way, I really recommend you follow Mark on Twitter. He provides great insights about the epidemic and seems to be a super smart guy. That's it for now. If you want to improve your understanding of key concepts in medicine and improve your clinical skills, make sure to register for a free MedMastery trial account, which will give you access to free videos, downloads.
Okay, we're back. That was a little bit of an explanation. No, one thing I noticed there was algebra there. Did you see that?
Yeah. That's why last time what was it, last show we did last Sunday? That's why I couldn't really articulate that because I couldn't remember how they did the math. But yeah, that's basically how they were calculating. And one of the things I can't remember if it was one of the Bill Gates interviews I listened to or if it was another one I listened to from another member of UNICEF or whatever the other, not World Health, but what's the other, UN or the Peace? I can't remember. It was one of the medical organizations that oversees Europe. I can't remember the name of it. But anyways, they were saying using the R0 over, ratios that they were doing there is the fact that given which one you want to believe, 40% or the 50%, I don't have the current statistics. I should have looked this up before to refresh my memory, but I think like the total population of like Europe is something like 80 million people or something like that. I know it's drastically smaller than the United States because I think in the 2010 census we were 351 million. And I know, the only reason I know the next one is because it's the size of, it's like 5 million less than California because Canada has 35 million and the state of California has 40 million people, just incidentally. But anyways, if you take the herd immunity calculations and say that this is how many people you need to be immune to the virus, well, if you look at the amount of cases that we have confirmed, I'm going to do the finger air quotes, confirmed cases that we have, we don't even have 0.0001% of the country infected, is what they were saying in the podcast that I was listening to. And this goes into more detail than I can even comprehend with my brain. But that's pretty much my take on this.
Oh, they were saying and some other stuff that I've been watching over the last week or so about this is that R0 factor, when they figure that out, it could end up being that they actually figure in the people that have already had it and the people that just refuse to take it. And they figured in order to get the R value down to nothing, there was so many people that they would have to inoculate, but it got to the point where there's going to be so many people that don't get it no matter what anyway.
Well, that's what they were talking about in one of the podcasts. I can't remember which one it was, but that's what they were saying. It's like, 351 million people. Well, if you figure, unlock my phone here, if the screen unlock actually worked for a change, 351 multiplied, let's just do 40%. So that's basically 140 million people. Well, this is where things get kind of sticky because of we don't know exactly how many people had it that didn't know they had it and recovered from it, and the ones that actually had it that were documented to have it and recovered from it, and the ones that had it documented and they passed away from it. So you try to figure that into the total figure, considering what is it? How many we've had in the country? 400,000? 500,000? I can't remember what the current number is.
I think it's more. I think it's just now approaching 400,000.
Okay, and what they're saying is the fact that they need they need to know the numbers for accuracy, because and this is why they keep monitoring like infection rates, is because of what they're saying of where the infection rate, which I don't understand this infection rate about how it can do 3 people and why it can't do any more than 4. That's beyond my understanding of how this all works. But that's why I just don't understand why they say that we're having spikes and it goes down and it spikes and it goes down. I just don't see how that's even a thing, because even when you factor in the records that we've had for the past, several decades of the flu virus that we get every year, and they know through reported cases of how, what the percentage is and etc. for like the flu virus, and it's a respiratory virus. A lot of people would say, well, corona's it's just the flu. Well, yes, technically yes, they are correct. It's a respiratory virus, but it's also, it's an even smaller percentage of the people that actually get. Because how many people do you know get flu vaccines? And I don't know what the statistics are, how many people I've never had one, but it's the fact that from what I've seen of what the symptoms and what actually flu is like, I'm thinking in almost 47 years, I'm thinking I had the flu one time. So, if you don't, look at the odds. And the reason why I say this is I'm kind of the black sheep of this whole thing, but just because of the amount of traveling I do.
Yeah.
It's the fact that in 1 week, I can, give you, when I started work, was it 5 weeks ago, because I've been already on a week of my 2-week vacation. You have to figure that I went from Ohio to Michigan. Now, this is like 1 week. Ohio to Michigan, to Calexico. Well, actually, Ohio, it was, I went from where I parked the truck in North Canton to, I can't remember the name of the town, but it was in between Lansing and Detroit. And then I went from there to Calexico, California. I went from Calexico, California, across I-10. If you look at it, I'm not going to go and tell you every single state that goes I-10, but you can just look at the map of the United States. I went from Calexico to North Charlotte, South Carolina, or North Charleston, South Carolina. Went from North Charleston, South Carolina, back to Calexico in 1 week. You have to figure how many states I went through, and I'm not even talking about COVID now. I'm just talking about in my driving of 17 years. You would have figured the amount of people that I would come in contact with that could have any of the 200 strains of the cold virus and any of the 4 variations of the flu virus. And the fact that I've only had the flu one time, and maybe I've had a cold maybe 4 times in the past 17 years. So you can't say everybody's going to have the same immunity to it, but I'm just saying the problem with this is just with what they're doing these calculations is they don't have the data to do the calculations with. That's basically what one of the things that Bill Gates was pointing out was the fact that the math, it's like in what they say in cryptology, the math doesn't lie. You're going to add 1 plus 1, you're going to get 2. It doesn't matter how many times you do it, 1 plus 1 is always 2. But it's always the fact when you get into these algebra type problems, and I'll end with this, is like what we said in our previous discussion about math. It's pretty much when you get into algebra and you have an x that's an unknown times this divided by that, when you don't know what the x is, you're pretty much guessing.
Yeah. And that, I think that's a good place to leave this. I've evidently got a birthday cake here.
And you got that card. You still have my
Yeah, I got the card too.
my card there. That
Look at that pretty cake.
feet of
And I'm
CVS.
48. Look at that. I'm 48 years old.
48. I saw that.
Almost for 84, though.
Actually, from my vantage point, you're 84.
I felt kind of old. It just all kind of hit me at once.
But I always wondered how much thermal paper does CVS go through in a day?
Good question.
You look at the receipt. I use Google Pay, so I don't have to get a receipt. And they still literally hand me 2 feet of receipt.
They don't care.
I know.
Anyway, let's wrap this up here for the night. I want to thank my guests, Erik and Dale, for coming in tonight. And also Flora for putting all this together for me. Very nice, dear. Thank you. It's been a neat birthday. I know you and I get in arguments over this some stuff all. But
Oh, you yelled at me tonight. So.
I didn't yell at you.
Yes, you did.
I got overly
You yelled at me.
Overly excited.
overly whatever.
Yeah. Whatever.
Anyway, we'll go ahead and wrap things up with I was going to play the song in the beginning and it wouldn't work. And hopefully it will now. So we'll end with this, and I'll go ahead and leave the cam up for a couple minutes while we cut the cake and that. So have a good week. We will see you all next week here on the Crooked River and on Radioactive. If you are tuning in on Spreaker to find us here, please check out Crooked River Radio. I've done a lot of work to that station, and we've got music. If you're into the 50s or 60s, 70s, and 80s, you'll really like what we've got there, and there's more coming. Over the past week or so, we've been doing a lot of work. So with that, and if you listen to this on Spreaker also, or any of your local podcast places, please give us a like and a share, and let us know you're out there by leaving a comment. Have a good week, and we'll talk to you then. We'll talk to you next week.
Pretty quick.
My family is insisting on singing "Happy Birthday" to me. Y'all hang in there. You can join in if you want. So, are we ready? I'm ready.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Patrick. Happy birthday to you.
Good night, everybody. Have a good week. This has been a Crooked River Media production.